Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you to take him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge.
For most of the day, this looked like an ordinary DUI trial in Seminole County, Florida. A jury had already returned a guilty verdict against 46-year-old Lisette Gonzalez, and everyone in the courtroom expected the hearing to end with a routine sentencing process. What nobody realized was that during testimony given earlier in the trial, details had emerged about paperwork filed by the arresting officer that did not match what had actually happened. At first, it sounded like a simple mistake, but as the testimony continued, the judge began to wonder whether this was far more serious than anyone in the courtroom wanted to admit.
Your Honor, not enough evidence presented for the jury to find the verdicts that they did. They didn't do all the field sobriety examinations that should have been done.
Before the hearing was over, the judge would question the credibility of the arrest itself, accuse an officer of effectively creating a problem that never should have existed, and ultimately erase every charge Gonzalez was facing.
I respectfully ask that this court grant the judgment notwithstanding the verdict.
The jury has spoken, the defendant has been found guilty, and from the outside, there appears to be very little left to discuss. What makes this moment important is that the most dramatic part of the case is still ahead.
This isn't a purely circumstantial case, and so I'm going to deny the motion for JOA.
Defense attorneys rarely ask judges to throw out a jury verdict after a trial has concluded because judges almost never grant those requests. In most courtrooms, a motion like this is considered a long shot, which is why nobody seems particularly concerned at this stage of the hearing.
I want to be enlightened.
It was a mistake, admittedly, by Michael Wagner.
I know.
Testified to that today.
He caused her to have her driver's license suspended for at least a few months.
The testimony revealed something unusual. Although the defendant was accused of driving under the influence, there was no breath test or blood test. Cases can still be prosecuted without those tests, but they become far more dependent on the officer's observations and credibility.
For at least a few months for nothing. So you're going to null process that case, or am I going to get mad at you today?
The entire hearing is quietly shifting toward a different issue. The question is no longer whether the defendant appeared impaired. The question is whether the information provided by the arresting officer can be trusted without hesitation.
I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge.
And then the shift changed everything. The case was now centered on the officer whose report helped create the charges against her, and whether critical information had been concealed behind paperwork that the court was expected to trust.
Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you? Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
Your Honor.
Then I want you to take him up on perjury.
Your Honor.
Will you take him up for perjury?
Watch the judge carefully here. Throughout the day, he had listened to testimony about errors, missing accuracy, and a suspension that never should have happened. What began as concern was quickly turning into disbelief, and the officer's actions were now becoming the focus of the courtroom.
He admitted it was a mistake, Your Honor.
No, but he lied. He lied on a sworn
Absolutely
citation.
not, Your Honor, and that is not true.
I'm dismissing. I'm dismissing.
The prosecutor attempts to explain the situation, but the judge focuses on a different issue entirely. He is no longer interested in whether the mistake was intentional, and that's when he dismissed the charge. You saw it.
I am dismissing this charge. No, I'm dismissing the charge.
Let us know your views in the comments below, and don't forget to click that subscribe button for more. This is where the hearing takes a dramatic turn. Instead of discussing future proceedings, the judge starts removing them altogether. The momentum of the case suddenly shifts in the defendant's favor.
This whole case was fishy, and I have no idea how they... You know what?
Their address on file.
Up until this moment, Lisette Gonzalez was still carrying a guilty verdict. The defense had already made its arguments, and the prosecution believed the case was over. Nobody in the courtroom expected the judge to revisit a decision that had already been made.
You know what?
The state intends to amend
I'm
the charge
granting.
and proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
But as he reflected on everything he had heard throughout the day, Something clearly wasn't sitting right with him. The deeper the judge looked into the sequence of events, the harder it became to ignore the role the officer's report had played.
Where he says he made a mistake in marking a box when arresting Gonzalez. It said she had a .08 or higher blood alcohol content without a test.
What had originally been presented as reliable evidence was now raising questions that nobody had expected to answer. Earlier in the hearing, testimony revealed that Officer Wagner had recorded information that was not supported by any breath test or blood test, and he later admitted to filing inaccurate paperwork that contributed to Gonzalez's license suspension. Those details had clearly stayed with the judge, even after the jury returned its verdict.
I'm granting the JOA in fairness.
In fairness, because you don't like the state's decision today, Your Honor, on the case?
No, you're not.
And what started as a routine DUI prosecution had slowly turned into something much bigger. The court was no longer focused solely on whether Gonzalez had been impaired while driving.
Perhaps you can get mad at me, Your Honor, but at this point...
Why wouldn't you? Wait a minute. Did you hear the uncontroverted testimony of this officer?
It was now confronting a larger question about how much weight should be given to an arrest when the officer's own testimony had created doubts about the accuracy of the investigation.
Now that I consider what Officer Wagner testified to and how many times he basically tripped over himself just to arrest this lady with no real probable cause. You're done. Motion JOA is granted.
Judges rarely change course once a case reaches this stage. By the time a jury delivers a verdict, most courtroom battles are effectively over, especially after an entire day of testimony has already been presented.
A judge decides to reverse a woman's DUI conviction and sentence after a testy exchange with a prosecutor.
Yet, as Judge Schott reconsidered the evidence, the concerns surrounding Officer Wagner's actions appeared serious enough to outweigh the finality that usually comes with a jury's decision.
And you're not going to provide a written order on that?
Nope. You want to appeal me? No.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Case should have never been done. Never.
Thank you for letting us know that, Your Honor.
Throughout the trial, attention had been focused on whether Gonzalez was guilty. Now, the focus had shifted entirely, and the judge's fury at last said everything he couldn't say in words.
I talked to Lisette Gonzalez tonight. She didn't want to go on camera. She says she's scared about what happens next because she has to go back to court April 2nd in the same case that the judge already dismissed.
Within a matter of minutes, the entire case unraveled. A woman who had entered the courtroom carrying a guilty verdict walked out free of every charge. The turning point was not new evidence, a surprise witness, or a dramatic confession. It was the judge's growing realization that the officer's actions had created problems that should never have existed in the first place, and that this case should never have been brought here, as the judge said earlier.
I'm granting.
And proceed on
I'm rescinding the sentence. I'm granting the JOA.
By the end of the hearing, the focus was on the credibility of the person whose report helped put her there. And once the judge lost confidence in that foundation, everything built on top of it came crashing down.